welcome to a new season of Mesita. My name is Jenny, and here we also have
Kiara.
Today we have a special guest, and for some people this could be something awesome because music and vinyl records are involved in this talk.
Our guest is one of the founders of Peace and Rhythm. He thrills us with his endless enthusiasm and knowledge of global funkiness. As a writer and historian, he has informed on many musical subjects from Latin and funk to jazz and punk via the likes of Wax Poetics, his rough guides, overviews, and more.
He is the author and curator of Cocinado, 50 Years of Latin Album Cover Art. He also regularly spins vinyls as DJ Bongohead and works in the fields of art and graphic design. His compilation series, The Afro Sound of Colombia, has helped relaunch a worldwide focus on the riches of Colombian music. Today with us in our virtual studio, Pablo Yglesias. Welcome to La Mesita, Pablo.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. I've had my dinner. My family's watching the movie, and I'm here in my little, inner sanctum with you guys. So I'm doing good.
We were checking all the hard work that you were doing in the music industry. What inspired you to do like what you do today?
Well, the first inspiration is my parents. Music was always a part of my growing up. We traveled a lot. My father's Cuban American. And my mother spoke Spanish and was in Cuba in the 50s, and then we were in Mexico, Puerto Rico. So I guess you could say I was sort of biculturally brought up, musically speaking, because I heard both Latin music and non-Latin music. And because it was everywhere in the house and, with friends that were musicians, and my dad was involved with record industry on the side for fun, and my mom was a librarian, my dad was a professor, so there's just a mixture of music, dancing, singing, listening to the radio, reading about music. And when I was in high school, which is 40 years ago, I used to DJ with two tape decks for high school dances, and I saw the impact that had on getting lots of people together and having fun. That was the late 70s, early 80s when, new wave and punk and disco and early rap, it was all coming together. So there was just a lot of great music. And I came from a town that had a lot of colleges where they had college radio, non-commercial radio. So all of those aspects, from travel to stuff at home to school and the area that I lived in, I would say that's where all those influences that came together and inspired me. I also always loved doing art, and so later when I graduated from college, I got into doing graphic design. And music and graphic design are often put together with packaging and how you sell the music and marketing and album cover art, of course. It's like a little miniature painting, that goes with the music. And I came from that era of the 60s and 70s and 80s when the music industry was booming with records. So my whole experience of music was not just listening to it on the radio, but also handling the records and cassettes and looking at the artwork while I listened to the music, that kind of a thing. So, it just kind of evolved over the decades from playing and listening to the music to then wanting to design it and work with musicians and also discover old music, that wasn't well known, as well as new music. So that's the way that evolved.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to the music, what is the importance of preserving and digging for these unique sounds and cover artworks?
It's definitely kind of rescuing things from obscurity, like getting something from the past that people might not know about and sharing it. And I always get so excited and inspired the first time that I hear something or see something that really grabs me. So first thing I want to do is share it with somebody else. And so it's important to educate people. Sometimes, like in the instance of Colombia, a lot of the young generation in Colombia didn't really know about or wasn't that interested in the music of the parents and grandparents. And so a lot of people from outside, from Asia, the UK, the United States, what have you, started digging into it as an inspiration of something new. And now I think in Colombia, a lot of young people are getting into these old sounds. But Colombia has also had an incredible scene for collecting records and studying the history of music. So I don't know, there's kind of a combination of getting really into discovering new things, and then also there are certain traditions of collecting and stuff that are already out there. So I kind of came into that area between the stuff that I discovered and then seeing these other societies of people that collect and play music. And so in Colombia, there's a whole DJ culture that's been there a long time. So, it's a combination, I guess you could say, where that comes from.
As a teenager, did it ever cross your mind to be a musical researcher? And what would have been another option if you weren't into music?
Well, when I was a really little kid, it was all about going to the moon and astronauts and the space race. And, we're talking late 60s, early 70s. And so as a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. And I also drew a lot. And so I kind of saw myself as being just a visual artist. And I did, study that. And I had maybe about 10 years where I was making art. But I wasn't making enough money to live on, and it just seemed really tough. So that kind of got morphed into doing graphic design. And along the way, I was doing like decorative painting and murals and working in museums and galleries and stuff. So, if I hadn't gotten into music and art, maybe I would have been, some kind of explorer of some kind. I don't know. Hard to say.
So we know times are hard right now, especially during the second wave of COVID. What has been a positive part of all of this, and how do you advise people to take action and precautions?
I think a positive thing should be that people should recognize how much they do have, and within their own resources, that they can rely on themselves to get through this. And if they're lucky enough to have some people in their household, it's a time like in my household, my family's all together. So we're helping each other and, trying to stay safe, following all the guidelines. So for me, the silver lining has been, because I used to make my living out in the public realm, like doing DJing or working with bands and visuals for concerts and doing exhibitions and traveling a lot. So now that I don't do that, we're coming up on almost a whole year of this, I realized that I saved a lot of money, I saved a lot of travel time, and I've just gotten a lot of different work done. I just sort of shifted my workload. So when I realized that I wasn't going to be going out all the time, I just said, what are all the projects that I put off over the last 5 years while I was going out and doing stuff that I really should finish now? And when I'm talking about projects, I mean like research and putting out records and writing. And so it's been good. I've been really cooped up inside a lot working on that. But mental health is definitely a really important thing. So I realized I need to be really kind to myself and aware of myself as well as others, especially in my family, but also out there. So I do take time out because it's tempting for me just to work all day long. But I've been taking time out for exercise. Where I live, I'm lucky that I can go outside, wear my mask, and go for a walk for an hour, and just get through some of those anxieties. Because I still have in the middle of the night, obviously, go through a lot of fears. You wake up and you think about where the world is going. But I do feel like more positive right now. I think maybe we're going to get somewhere with this new government, and I hope that people are going to understand what they need to do in order to fight this disease. But there's still a lot of people out there that are in denial, and they're holding us back, and I feel really bad about that. So all I can say is do what you can, follow all the guidelines, be socially distant. We're not getting together with the rest of our family for the holidays this year. We're just keeping it, inside with ourselves, with the four of us that are in this little bubble. And, doing things like this to reach out to other people, to family members. So that's pretty much my advice to people, is follow what the science says,
Mm-hmm. So talking about graphic art, what is your creative process like? So how does an idea come to you? Do you look at other artists and you think, I really like what they did and I want to do something similar? What's it like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination. Sometimes a concept for something will just come out of nowhere and in a weird time, so I have to quickly do a sketch or write it down if I'm not at my desk. Other times things will only come together as I work at them. That situation is like if you have a block of stone and you can kind of see through into the center where the sculpture is going to end up, but you've got to do different layers of chipping away in order to get to the part where you can really fine tune it. So a lot of times I don't really know how a design or even a sentence or an essay is going to go at the very beginning. I know some vague concepts, but as I do it, the process of working through it and fine tuning things and moving things around and, adding things, taking things away, that's really more of how I work. But there are times where I have a total concept right from, I can't tell where it comes from. But that's more like when I used to do visual art. And I haven't actually done any art, for a long time. I don't know if you can see over there, there's a painting. It's really teeny on my screen, so I can't tell. But that's an old self-portrait I did like a billion years ago.
That's really cool.
And then some of the stuff behind me are things that I've done the graphic design for. But I don't always do the actual artwork. Sometimes I art direct. So when you do art directing, at least for me, that means having a concept but not actually doing the final art. You commission it. So, for some of these up here, I might have had a vague idea and then set it to the artist. And also part of it is picking the artist that you want to work with. But other times, these are some of the records that I've put out on Peace and Rhythm or with other labels. In the case of Peace and Rhythm, it's a collaborative thing because we really love working with the bands or with the musical artists, and we feel it's like a partnership. And sometimes they've got a whole bunch of stuff already finished. Maybe they have the music finished, or they have the art finished and the music, or other times, they'll take suggestions or I'll just do the art. So, and one band was even kind of created because we put out this artist's like one-man band demos that had been like in storage, and then the music was so great that we were like, what if a live band could play this music? And so then we worked on the single artists and Peace and Rhythm. We worked together to like get a concert for this guy to play his music, and then he asked some friends to play, and they had such a good time that then they formed an actual new band to play that music. But they were having such a good time that then they started writing new music. So then they decided they had to name it something different, and then a year later they made a record. We made a record with them. We put out a record. So that really was a collaborative thing. I mean, it's not always like that, but in many cases, that's to me what gives me the most joy is when I'm collaborating with other people. So, you know, it could be a pretty lonely thing doing art and writing and design because it's all you. But when you can collaborate, it's a lot more like making a movie or something, or you know, a video like this where there's a bunch of you collaborating, you know, to do it. And that's more satisfying in a way. So.
You said you haven't been doing art in a long time, but when you did do art, what was the purpose? What is the purpose of your art, and what purpose does it aim for you or anyone who looks at it?
Well, the purpose, it couldn't even be described. It was just something that had to get out of me, you know? It was just my way of expressing myself. So the purpose back then for me of making art was like living. I mean, that was just my expression, you know, of myself and my ideas. And a lot of the stuff that I did was more environmental. It was like installation art, like making some kind of a space and filling it with things. I was really into light and sound and 3 dimensions and stuff. So even though you saw that one-dimensional painting, that's not really like, you know, the final stage where I thought like I had reached a really cool level for myself was doing like 3-dimensional stuff and environments and installations. I've always been into the idea of ritual and making altars and interacting with the space and how does that environment make you feel, and spirituality, color, movement, that kind of stuff. So, you know, that's kind of the direction that I was heading in, but it just got to be too, I don't know, too unwieldy, too like big for my abilities. The ideas were like impossible to really do, I felt. And at meantime, you know, I had a family and I needed to pay the bills and stuff, and I couldn't really figure out a way to balance all that. So, you know, that's kind of why I stopped that.
Can you talk about like your biggest like opportunity so far, like in your career surrounding your work?
I definitely think doing a museum, a bunch of different museum exhibitions has been probably the most exciting and best opportunity. When I did, this is the book that we were talking about, Cocinando, with all the Latin album cover art. And when I did that book, I think I always had the idea of wanting to do a show as well, either a gallery or maybe a museum show. But it was pretty hard to convince the larger type of institutions at that time. That was around 2005, 2006. But then after a series of being a consultant on other shows and stuff, I was able to get some spaces in New York and do some shows that were really close to what I wanted, but I still was funding everything myself. But then from there, in academia, I got invited to do a version of those shows at this museum at the University of Oregon, or Oregon, as they say. And that was called Visual Clave. You know, clave being the beat that's in Latin music. And so it's kind of like, what are the elements that make up Latin culture as shown through the window of album cover art through history. And I had some original artwork that was used for the covers, so it wasn't just the little album covers or the 12-inch album covers. It was also some big paintings and collages and other stuff that was the original artwork that was used. So to me, that was like the biggest opportunity, you know, to kind of take the book to another level. And I'm grateful for that. That was last year, 2 years ago.
What are some habits that are good to have in your line of work?
I think that it takes a lot of discipline when you're self-employed. So you really have to stick to it and try to stay on deadline. So one is discipline. The second important thing is communication. If you're self-employed and you're working at home, you've got these clients that you're working with, and you need to understand what they want. They need to understand what you're doing. So it requires patience and a lot of back and forth. There just has to be a lot of good communication. And I like to show people the drafts, like the rough draft, the second draft. And I'm happy for any kind of feedback. And so I know there's a lot of give and take when you're working with a client. You have to be able to, you have to direct them and show them that this is your idea, but at the same time, they're involved and, they're going to have their feedback. So it's a bit of a give and take. So just, I would say you just have to be patient and you have to be able to communicate and you really have to stick to it. And to me, the hardest is not the graphic design. To me, that is fun and easy. It's the writing. When I do the writing. And it was funny because when I did this book, they thought the editors at the place thought, oh, it's just going to be pictures, like a picture book, right? But I wanted to do, the sociological study of why these album covers say Latin culture and what is the story behind them and the story behind the people that designed them. So I ended up writing a whole bunch of text and they totally freaked out. They were like, oh no, we're going to have to get the text editor too, But that took like a year to write that text, and it was very lonely. It was very lonely work writing that. So, you have to have a certain sense of a goal and a drive. And I always say, if you dream it could happen, then you can make it happen, because you have to first have that concept, and you have to believe in yourself, and you have to suspend your disbelief, like when it's only a dream, you could just put yourself down and say, that'll never come to fruition. There's no way you're going to get that done. But you have to believe it in order for it to eventually come true, even if it doesn't come out exactly how you conceived of it. Because this book and the exhibitions and many of the compilations and records that I've done haven't been exactly the same at the end as the concept at the beginning. But, as long as you stick to it, you can get some kind of satisfaction, I think, out of finishing it. And so, just have a dream and have some drive and some discipline. That's what I would say.
So you own a lot of vinyls. What is your favorite record in your vinyl collection?
That's like saying, which is my favorite kid, I mean, I know that, I had been asked to bring out some covers and stuff that I like. But I ended up having this huge stack because they're all my little children, and I love each one of them in their own way. You know what I mean? Like, they just all are different. They're all beautiful, and they all deserve my attention and love, so I don't know. I don't have a favorite record cover. Just like I don't have a favorite recording or a favorite band or a favorite record label or a favorite. Someone just asked me today, who's your favorite album cover artist, like designer? Mm-hmm. And I said, I could name 10, but there's no way I'm going to choose one. You know what I'm saying? So, and I like, this is Mexican Institute of Sound. I mean, I like modern album covers as well. I'm not just like all about the retro stuff. And then I kind of get to know some of the designers. Like, I'm actually friends with this guy who did this design. The musician is long gone, but the designer is still with us, Charlie Rosario. And this was something he made out of metal and then took a photograph of it. So he was kind of thinking outside the box. So yeah, can't say there's a favorite cover.
Okay, but let's say, your house caught on fire. You have to save one. That's where the favorite comes in. Which one do you want to pick?
Maybe I would pick one that has sentimental value then, which is not in this room. It's upstairs with my jazz records. because it's something left over from when my dad was young, and his best friend in college started a record label and then became a producer. And so I still have this record, and it's been through maybe not a house fire, but it's been through a lot of disasters and a lot of problems, and it's cracked from the center hole all out to the end, but it still plays. And it's, you know, it's a pretty rare record, but it's not about that. It's about the fact that, you know, my dad's friend produced it, discovered the artist, produced it, gave it to my dad kept it, then my mom had it, then my mom gave it to me, and now I have it. And hopefully one of my kids, I don't know, if they don't like records, so I don't know if they'll want it. But one of my kids did say that I was a hoarder. I guess they had seen a TV show about hoarding. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm a collector. And I do things with these records. I educate, I entertain, and I keep them ordered. And they're not like in like horizontal stacks coming up from the floor where nobody can move around. They're all in here. And then my kid looked at me and was like, seemed to be considering it. And then was like, you know, the house is like leaning this way because of the records, right? And I was like, no, it's just an old house. And they're like, you're a hoarder. And I was like, so, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so let's move into politics. We recently learned that one of the great figures of Latin music, Willie Colon, openly expressed himself to be a Republican pro-Trump. What was your reaction, and what is your opinion about this?
I've always known that, actually, because I talked with Willie very briefly when I was doing my book, and I did not get the most warm vibe, shall I say, from him about my project. And then from there, I just talked to people and found out. But hey, everybody is allowed to have their opinion, obviously. I mean, for me, it's like I still am going to love the music as long as the music isn't carrying that same message. You know what I mean? Like the old music that Willie did was socially conscious in some ways, or at least, you know, some of the lyrics that the singers that worked with him had. And his music was progressive. I mean, sonically, you know what I'm saying? It was like ahead of its time in some ways. So that I keep that separate in my mind. There's a lot of musicians who are terrible, terrible people, way worse than something to do with politics, right? There are musicians who prey on children, you know, but you still might like a song by them, especially if you grew up hearing that song. You didn't find out till later that they were molesting a child or whatever. So, you know, I try to keep it all in balance. Politics is one thing, but art is another. But when the art and politics are together, well, then, okay, you know, we have to talk about that. So, yeah, I don't know. I knew it, and it doesn't bother me. It is what it is.
So this is where the funny and silly questions come in. So if you had a time machine and could escape this pandemic, what would be the time and country to which you would go to, and why?
I would go to I'd go back to the 1980s when I was young. and if I could have all the knowledge I have now, but go back and be like between 15 and 20 years old when there was all this great music, but I would have a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more maturity, I think that would be really cool. The 80s in many ways were dark times in terms of politics and economy and stuff, but culturally, I feel like there was a lot going on in the late 70s, early 80s. So I probably wouldn't need to go back in time to see the dinosaurs or whatever, or go forward in time to see whether we survive on this earth or not. Nah, just bring me back to the 80s with like poofy hair and, you know, big shoulders and like new wave bands and stuff. Yeah.
So sorry. What is cooking DJ Bongohead on this upcoming fiestas?
Say that again?
I can't stop laughing.
Yeah, so we just want to know, like, what are you cooking, like, you know, like on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, New Year's,
Like
you know, these
cocinando.
holidays. Yeah.
What am I cocinando? This year we decided no meat, no turkey, nada de eso. So, but then we started thinking about like trying to categorize, and we have like all these starches, but no real protein. So it's a work in progress, and we're 2 days away. Personally, I mean, I have a major problem with Thanksgiving culturally and historically. So our thing has never, ever been about that. It's just been about family and eating and hanging out and playing games and listening to music and that kind of stuff when the larger amounts of family could come. But we're just boiled down to just the people in our household, and one of my kids is vegan, and so we just decided let's not do meat. And I mean, I never liked turkey that much anyway. And so, yeah, we're working on it, We got a lot of vegetables and various starchy things, but no kind of main proteiny thing quite yet. Yeah.
So, who would you ask for that much desired album for your collection? Santa Claus or the Three Kings, and why?
I probably would just ask my wife because she's got the money.
Okay. So we're coming to the end of the interview, and we just wanted to say it was a pleasure talking with you and getting to know a little more about your world. We wish you the best of luck, in 2021, because I think we all need it. Yeah.
Well, to you guys too. I wish you guys best of luck. I have to say, my kids are older than you, but to me, the thing that hurts so much is for all the kids going through this. I mean, I can't imagine like if I was your age having to go through this. It's really hard, and both my kids are done with school. They're like working, and they had to leave their jobs and leave where they lived, come back here, and but you guys, I mean, you're still in school and you're having to do the whole virtual thing and not knowing where everything is going and going to end up. And maybe you've, lost some family members, or even if you haven't, I mean, everybody is going through like this economic and fear thing of what COVID is doing. And so it's just a rough time. So yes, 2021, positive vibes. Hope you guys also get out there and experience the world, and education in person is so much more
Effective.
fruitful and effective. And I mean, the whole virtual thing. That's why I will leave you with this note. I got invited to do a lot of virtual performance type things. I don't know. I didn't want to do it. I'm old school. Like, I don't play digital either. I only play records. Not because records are better, but because I'm at the point where I only want to DJ what I want to DJ, and I don't take things just to take gigs. I do what I want to do and where I want to do. It's like that with during COVID. To me, performing online, I mean, yeah, sometimes it's fun and good, but I don't want to perform online because I think it would be boring for people to watch.
Yeah.
So where can we find more information about you?
The CIA, the FBI, they probably have files on me. But about me, I don't know. But the record label, if you want to check out peaceandrhythm.com. And there's some blogs. I used to write a blog, but it was really nerdy about music and stuff, and then I stopped.
Thank you guys so much for listening on Lumpen Radio. And to those who are watching us on our YouTube channel, my name is Kiara and
Jenny.
We wish you a happy holidays and stay safe and healthy.